Hello and welcome
Hello.
to Pitch It. How is everybody today, or this evening, or wherever time it
Uh,
is?
as well, exactly.
Welcome to Pitch It. Now, I'm going to give an opportunity for some everybody to join in with us. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're like, "Hey, I want to pitch something," well, you can pitch from the YouTube chat, but I know you're kind of limited of characters there. So if you want to hop in here and come in on our conversation, feel free to do so. You can go to autocrit.com/live, and it should be that top event right now. And you can click on pitch it and you can join us here in this meeting. Now, one thing that I always recommend when anybody is doing a pitch or planning a story or wants to put their work out there is to ask themselves this question: what does the protagonist want? And usually the protagonist wants something central in the story, which is either love, it's a relationship, it's connection with another being of some sort, whether it be a significant other or a pet or something like that, or it's money, power, status, something like that, or it's meaning, an answer to a question. And the important thing about knowing what the protagonist wants is not only knowing about it on this kind of grander level. I think a lot of us understand that, but it's to know it on the concrete level. If you have a pitch and it is not clear to the person you're pitching to what the protagonist wants, you may want to look at that. And certainly when you're writing a story, it is something that you should have a clear idea of what is going on, because that's what's driving the story forward. All right, that being said, we are here to listen to pitches from anybody who wants to give a pitch. And like I said, I know we have people out there on YouTube. We have people in on this call. So anybody who has a pitch out there for us, feel free to go right ahead.
Um, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. Just a
All right,
second here. I'm going to go ahead and
Put me in
co-op.
the mix.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put you in the middle of the mix here so that way I can put you up on YouTube. So they can see you as well.
Is this my 15 minutes of fame? I thought it would feel different.
I know, right?
Yeah.
All right, yes. Go ahead, um, Tom.
Hi. So I'm Tom Coombe. I've been taking classes through you guys since last month. I did the Nightmare Fuel class through January and February, and now I'm doing the editing class. And I won your contest over the
You
weekend.
did, yes,
Tale
you
of
did
Day.
win the Tale of Day
Nice.
So
with that
I'll
brilliant
be
work about that church with falconry, which was very fascinating.
Excellent.
I wish I had more time. I wish I had more than 4 hours to put it together, but
Yeah.
it's something
But I
I
like
want
how
to
you
experience.
raised the stakes there. It's not tail in a day, it's tail in 4 hours, and you
I didn't
still
know
won.
about today
So,
till that afternoon. So yeah. All right. So here's what I'm thinking about.
Mhm.
A few years ago, a friend of mine from Twitter posted something about how her daughter, who was maybe 4 or 5 at the time, told her that there was a little girl who lived in their house who was always looking at her. And
Okay.
it's one of those things that I think kids come up with
Mhm.
just weird flights of fancy that kind of freak their parents out. But I started thinking about what if that girl was really there, and what if she was part of your family, and she always been part of your family. She'd lived there. She'd lived with your family for generations. She'd never gotten any older. She's always looking at you, and you can't look back at her because um, something horrible happens to you. I haven't figured out what that would be yet. But the protagonist of the story would be the daughter of a woman. Her mother would have had to take care of this little always looking girl. Um, her whole life, and the mother dies, and the protagonist would essentially inherit this girl. And in order to inherit any money from her mom, she would have to take care of this strange little, inhuman being. And ultimately would set out to find where she came from. Why hasn't she aged in generations? What causes her to have this ability? And that's it.
Interesting. Now, the one thing I'm a little bit unclear about in the premise is, so the person who is currently taking care of this girl who doesn't age and has always lived in this house, did they grew up with this girl as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess it goes like she asks her mom and she's like she grew up with her and she doesn't really know how far back it goes. As far as she
Yeah.
knows, everybody is aware of this girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
She's always been someone's sister or aunt in the family as far back as anyone goes.
Right. And what is the mysterious person's like interaction? Are they just do they do anything or they just have a presence?
They just kind of live in the house. They demand constant attention, but you can't really look directly at them. I haven't figured out what the effect would be, but I would think it would be something like psychological. You
Right.
would have horrible visions or hallucinate. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I really like the hook. I mean, that's a great like horror suspense sort of hook because I love the idea of this like ever-present force that is mysterious and then it's like, well, is it really doing any harm exactly? I mean, I guess it does harm when you look at them and it's like a nuisance, but it's like it's not quite the same thing as like a monster or something, right? So it's like that weird in between that's very and almost
Well,
more uncomfortable than a monster because a monster you
yeah,
could just vanquish, but this is like kind of in that middle.
hmm yeah,
I agree with Daniel. I love the hook. There are very few things that are more chilling to me than a a child that can see something that adults can't necessarily really see. And so I was on that track when you first mentioned
yeah,
a friend of yours said her daughter brought this up because there's just a massive school of thought around that absolutely could be real. Children are more open to
hmm
various, whether it's senses or realities or whatever. So I like that idea. I would certainly want to think about, like, if you can't ever look at her, how do you know she's there? Um,
hmm
can you touch her? Can you feel like a coldness when she's nearby? Because my first thought was just a small child standing in the corner, kind of looking at you, and you can see her, but you don't want to look at her because she's
But I can't think of how it just. I don't know. It just doesn't. For some reason, I just think this constantly staring child could come off as silly on screen, and I wouldn't want that.
there. I think in movies in particular, there have been instances of constantly staring children, especially if they're dressed in an unusual way, that have
hmm
been incredibly effective.
Yeah.
Or if there is something else slightly unusual about them, whether their hair covers their face, like the girl from
hmm
The Ring, she's crawling around, she's got that weird hair, or their face is kind of blurred.
hmm
um, I forgot what I was watching recently that had mysterious uh, visitors that you just couldn't see their features, and that's
Hmm.
unnerving to people in general. So maybe there's an aspect that takes her to that next level of
hmm
unnerving that you could
Yeah.
work in there.
Now, I'm guessing only the family can see this person, right?
Um. Well, no, I think that part of the story is that she has to be kept secret. Um, so
Mm.
the issue or the
Oh, so they
challenge of
actually have
living through.
to spend effort to make sure nobody else sees this person.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You're saying that they have to take effort to make sure nobody else sees this entity. That it's not
Yes, yeah,
okay, interesting. Okay.
yeah, because no one outside the family really knows the rules.
Right. And they're just protecting other people.
hmm
Now, I would imagine this entity must follow them from house to house because at some point somebody must have tried
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, I would move. I
So
may
yeah,
burn the house
I mean
down.
it's an intriguing hook. I would say for me what I would be curious about is I mean, this is basically kind of like a meaning story. You have a main character trying to figure out what is this system, what is going on, an
Mhm.
answer to this mystery. So that's
Yeah.
definitely intriguing hook, and that has me going. And the challenge with that would just be to kind of know where you're going to go with it, which you don't have to tell me now, but uh
You have to tell me.
and maybe you don't even know, but you would need to have an idea of how does it get resolved. And it's one of those stories that I feel like you wouldn't have to like spell it out in some sort of scientific way, and it's like, well, it's
Oh
Joe
no,
Blow
no, no.
Schmo and they did this particular accident or whatever. I don't know,
Yeah,
whatever weird
I
pseudoscientific
mean,
explanation. It's not that kind of story, but you do need to
mm,
have a resolution of some sort where either it's like the person comes to more at peace with that entity
mhm.
or something. You know what I mean?
And that's the
Or
beauty, I
gets
think, of
absorbed into the entity or
yeah.
something, like
I mean, there are so many ways you could take that hook and go with it. You could turn it into a like comedy or a science fiction angle or
Mhm.
a science influenced paranormal horror situation. There are just so many ways. I agree there needs to be some level of resolution, but I
Mhm.
also feel like there's a great opportunity to to just leave a little something at the end.
Mhm.
The the question I have is thinking about, if the child isn't causing any problems per se, where's the motivation to get rid of her, or what is the problem that we're looking to solve with it, or the challenge to overcome the obstacles
Yeah, I was
aside
thinking
from
about that.
having to
I was
keep her
thinking like
secret.
yeah,
maybe
you almost want an escalation of some
Hmm.
sort.
I was thinking about someone else that the main character would be close to um would maybe like I in my vision maybe she has like a teenage son and he's really defiant and he just like he doesn't you know he doesn't take the rule that they have seriously and looks directly at her and be
Uh-oh.
Oh
You
no, we lost
we
sound.
lost your
He
audio.
looks directly at her and what?
I know, that's the big cliffhanger. That's the
Everyone
cliffhanger.
out there, I'm sorry. We
Uh-oh.
couldn't hear him either. He's
It's a
lost
big
sound.
the big reveal.
It's a big reveal. Is he gonna come
oh
back? Oh, you're back.
I'm back. So you didn't hear anything I just said.
You
No,
just
it was
said
like
you
it
just
was like
said
just,
he looked directly at her, and yeah, we didn't hear the rest of
I was
and then
thinking
we're
like yeah he would look directly at her and become incredibly ill or go into a coma or something like that
that.
and
Uh huh.
that would kind of lead the mom the main character to sort of now go out and find find a way to resolve this find this girl's origin that kind of thing.
Yeah.
ooh,
I mean,
interesting.
it could be that they could look at her, but not like in her eyes, kind of thing. Like they
Yeah,
Or
can't make
maybe
yeah,
eye
not like,
yeah.
contact.
They can. It's. I was thinking more like Medusa. You can't
Yeah,
mhm,
look.
I
mhm.
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
You could, or
Otherwise, you have to be able to look at her somewhat, or you wouldn't even know she was there.
yeah.
and you could add in, maybe it is, uh, you can look at her, you can see her, but you can't touch her. If
Hmm.
if you touch her, something horrible is going to happen.
That'd be
Just
kind of
to
cool.
get past that obstacle of like, if you can't
Yeah.
look at her,
Yeah,
how do you know she's
we had
there?
one comment in our chat where they said
Oh,
the international action with the girl should not be diminished by not looking at her because it'd be too limiting and diminish potentials for tension. And I think
Tension would be,
And I think they
yes.
were thinking about, if you just can't ever see them,
mhm.
which is not quite the same as eye contact. But even then, I kind of like rather than eye contact, it's like touch or something else.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Maybe,
Hmm.
talking to them, something like
And
that.
it's a
Mhm.
great, that's a great way to bring in some of those other senses. Is there
Mhm.
always like the smell of lilacs when she comes by, or
Mhm.
something else that would be, potentially disconcerting about her
Mhm.
presence? I'm I'm curious about if the presence has been a generational thing that the mother and then now the child will have to care for. Like, when the mother got married, how do you explain this? Like, oh, meet my parents and this entity that also lives in my house. And by the way, we're tied to this forever.
Mhm.
So there may be a little bit of a,
And
a
it's also
twist in there as well.
there's
Like,
also like a handoff, right? Because you get the idea that if the person moves from place to place, it has to
Mhm.
decide which family member is like the one it's
Mhm.
clinging to, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, in my head, the last line, the initially, in my head, the final scene would be the main character's younger daughter asking her who's going to take care of Anna, and that's the name I go with. Who's going to take care of Anna after you're gone? That's where it would end.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
interesting.
because I almost would think from a fun tension standpoint, you could have the beginning of it is this woman who's gotten married and hasn't ever told her husband about this because how do
Mhm.
you? Her mom is dying, and then she knows when her mom dies. Well, this character's going to move into their house or something like that. It's kind of a
Yeah.
fun way to kick it off. And then you have a character that has to get introduced to all the rules, like the
Mhm.
audience has to get introduced
Yeah.
to the rules, so that makes it helpful.
Yeah. I mean, that's
This is a
another
positive.
angle.
I'm sorry. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to write it for you. I'm just
No,
giving
no,
you
no, no,
possible.
no, no. I brought it up on the theme that there has to be a character who's kind of the audience surrogate who's introduced to
Right.
all this stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And there's
I,
different ways. It could be they're dating or something like that. I kind of like
Or
already being
even
married
be,
just because it's more tense then. But
yeah.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
it could be like someone who's hired as a nanny. I don't
yeah,
know.
it could be. It's
sure,
true.
sure. I was also thinking of perhaps the angle of it's not as common here in the US, but in other countries where multiple generations live in the same
Yeah.
house.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mhm.
grandmother is there, the
Yeah.
mother and the daughter,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because obviously all the evil is flowing right through the maternal side of
Yeah.
the family tree. I don't.
And it is interesting. It does ask the question because even if it's not like a scientific answer, if there's a
Mhm.
moral answer, like something in the family's past caused
Mhm.
this, or kind of like, is there a theme you're getting at in terms of like your past kind of never leaves you and weighs you down and it will just follow you around? There's
Mhm.
something to be said for what and I wouldn't say you have to like, you know, uh, hit somebody with a 2x4 with it or something like that. And
Mhm.
it might come organically, but there's different themes I'm getting from that sort of conflict that could be very interesting to explore
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
horror standpoint.
You know, Daniel, the first rule of theme is you never talk about theme directly in your book. It's always there, but you never just say, like, here's going to be a family drama journey that talks about how
Really?
you're. Yeah, I
Are you
know, I know,
sure?
I know. I'm
I'm
pretty
pretty
sure.
sure
I
that I've read a lot of books that the first sentence is the theme
know.
of this book is the
Once
moral
upon
of
a
this
time, I wrote a
story.
book that had a theme of X. Yeah.
It's like Animaniacs, the wheel of morality.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
All right. So does anybody else out there in YouTube land? I see we've got some viewers out there. Do any of you have any pitches or any feedback for Tom about his intriguing pitch? I certainly find it intriguing. I like the hook. Um I am not a big horror fan. I'm not Gareth, but I do like a good suspense, unsettling psychological thriller type thing, and that sounds more like
Mhm.
what this is. So this is much more in my wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah, it's not.
Um,
I don't want. I don't. This. It's not a. It's not a slasher. That's not the type of horror
mm-mm.
that interests me at all. I'd rather just people feel unsettled than start
Hmm.
horror.
Yeah, and that's the way I am too. I don't mind feeling unsettled, but I don't like reading about just nonstop violence. This is not my personality. So.
Yeah, I think I've only written maybe once someone actually dies.
Yeah.
Um,
This
Interesting.
this does not give me that splatterpunk vibe.
No,
So
no, not at all. I mean, you could take it
I mean,
that way, but
I,
that's not the way he's taking it. So,
I
yeah.
like I like mysteries.
yeah,
I like
Mhm.
unsettling imagery.
yeah,
Ooh. I
I
mean,
like it.
the potential for the unsettling imagery with this is
Yeah,
just fantastic. Yeah.
yeah,
I
especially
think
with
so.
the like I said, the themes you can get at in terms of your past never fully leaves you and
Yeah,
sins of the father kind of
the way
stuff,
your
and just so many different
heart.
things you could get
Yeah.
into.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Wow. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think
Thank
you're
you so
getting
much.
I think
Both
you're
of you.
getting a
Oh,
couple
you're
thumbs up.
very welcome. You're very
In the chat that
welcome.
I can't see.
Yes, and thank you out there, YouTube, for helping us out here with Tom. And any other comments from anybody or anything out there? If you would like to get involved with the show, pitch it. Feel free to join us on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. You can also email me at daniel@autocrit.com if you want to kind of set up an appointment, as it were. or submit something to me that if you feel like you can't be here right at that time, maybe you're watching a replay right now. You're like, oh, I can't be there at Tuesdays at 7. Well, you can always email one and we'll just talk about it live on the show at 7 o'clock as well. All right. So I think that will be it for this evening. Thank you so much, Tom, for
Thank
submitting to
you.
us that
No, this
awesome
was great.
pitch. I had a great time.
I
How
did
about
too.
you, Beth?
I
Feeling
had a wonderful
unsettled?
time. Look, I look forward to hearing an update on
Right.
how you proceed with this, because it just, I can envision so many paths and
Mhm.
so many situations. So I feel like you just got a great hook there, and yeah, let's take it forward. And when I say let's, you go get busy writing.
We'll have him back on, and we'll do the pre-order sale and all of that. Um, by the way, I've been looking in my corner just to make sure there isn't a girl looking at me. So
That's
you have
not
me as well.
okay, because I feel a corner right over here that is just waiting for a creepy child to stand
I
looking.
need like a Zoom background now to like be like, duh, like this like face just coming.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Look, Tom, if you show up for our lab session later and you have a background with a little creepy girl standing, I'm gonna throw you
I'll
right
make you
out.
one,
That's just
Tom. I'm gonna make one right now. I'm gonna give it to you. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this disturbing episode, picture.
this is magic. This is
Also
magic.
known as Let's Try to Scare Beth. It's always fun. Uh, we will
It's
see
fun and
you.
easy.
I know, right? This is why I don't read horror. I'm pretty easy too. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Okay, so let's cut this off. All right. So
And on
thank
that
you very
note,
much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom, for joining us on Pitch It, and we will see you around AutoCrit Live. All right. Bye, everybody.
everybody.